Conventional deadlift!
Woo!
Then we're going to be showing you how to do conventional deadlift. Later, we're going to probably do a full part video where you can watch conventional and sumo if you're new and you want to figure out which form you want to take on. And we're also going to do a squat form video, so it'll be all three lifts, like major. You can check out the bench one. But we'll do a complication of them, but we're going to break them down to their own individual videos for more experienced lifters. But if you're a newbie, you want to find the complication so you can see all of these put together. Okay, so for conventional deadlift, most new lifters lift in regular tennis shoes. And I think these put your ankles and throw your support off on your feet, and it really just messes up the entire lift, whether it's squat or deadlift. So you kind of want to invest in a flat shoe. They do have platform shoes and deadlift shoes as far as I know. Like SBD makes them, I think.
Yeah.
I buy Converses because this young man right here found them, and they were really nice. They're flat. They got ankle support on them, and they're cheap. Yeah, they're like $50.
I'll show you something. So when you're squatting this deadlift, squatting or deadlifting in these shoes, all that squish. So hey, you're picking up 500 pounds. Well, your shoe's giving, and it ain't. Obviously, you can tell this sumbitch ain't even all across. So it's going to bend more other spots. That can cause ankle problems, and it causes you an imbalanced force coming through your legs.
Plus, your foot flat in a flat shoe is more like this. Of course, you got your arched feet, but on this, you're at an elevation, so you can't see it inside the shoe. But usually the heel is thicker than the front part, as you can see right here. So it's going to put you on a elevation like this, where you're kind of in a hack squat hybrid position, no matter what you're doing. So some people I've seen people deadlift in boots because they're flat and that's all they got. So it's up to you, but I definitely recommend looking into them. Another thing I recommend, whether you're a newbie or not, is a weightlifting belt. Now, a weightlifting belt can brace your core and really help pull in, and I think it just keeps you from exploding through your abdominal wall, your organs and stuff in a way.
That's kind of the extreme of it. If you think about it, what it's doing is you're holding air in your stomach, you're bracing up against it. And so it keeps all your muscles nice and tight and keeps it stable. And this prevents, like you having, if you're not stable, there's more risk to your spine. But if you have this full of air and you're pressing against the belt, you have a protective wall and it's like a pressure vessel that's keeping you stable and it's keeping you from getting injured. That's mainly what it does.
It's also keeping your back from getting more rounded at the lower. It keeps your back straight, at least tries to. If you have a belt from Amazon, like a $20 flimsy belt, here, let me show you real quick. I think we got one down here.
We'll show them what not to get first.
All right. So for powerlifting, you're probably not going to want anything that thin. Leather belts are nice. They dig into you a little bit more. They're not as comfortable. After you break them in, they do feel good, but they get looser. I deadlifted and I used a leather belt when I first started out. I really liked it. One of the best ones I ever had. But over time, when I started lifting heavier weight, I needed something thicker to provide me more support. So I wound up getting a powerlifting belt. Chunk it if you want, unless you want to talk about it. This was also
that's my first belt.
Yeah, it's his first belt. I also used this a lot when we first started out. These are illegal in powerlifting because of how thick the back is, so it's also something to consider the size. And if you do want to compete in powerlifting, I recommend training what you're going to be able to compete in. These are good. I like these if you're just a newbie and you're just, I guess, just in the gym lifting and you're not going too crazy with it and you're just average.
Yeah.
I pick up one of these.
Yeah, it's okay. If you're just being an amateur, you can go with that. But I feel like it's always a very weird, once I put it on, it's not, what's the word? It's not gripping me evenly. So like I'm pushing, and it's very small on the front, but on the back it's very thick. It's not even. I'm not a big fan of it. I didn't know no better when I was a kid. These don't even get some bullshit like this, man.
This is like the $20 Amazon belt. Absolute dog shit, bro. Like, look how flimsy that shit is. I wouldn't even beat my wife with that.
These, I use this too. Same thing with that other belt. And this is obviously not rigid at all. There's no support in it. And the Velcro, I mean, you're relying on Velcro to hold you together. I wouldn't do that shit at all. What I recommend is a thick belt. When you see that fucking shit, I cannot fucking get my hands on it and go and bend that shit. And this is the perfect width on it. That way
you can't fucking bend like that other one was. You're not folding it in and making a crease at the top.
Exactly. And this thing is, it's the same width all the way across, and you're pressing against it uniformly. So Keeps nice and tight.
You have 2-prong and single prong. It's personal preference. I had a double prong. I fucking loved it. But I think the single prong is easier to get on, so that's also something you need to consider. I think they both provide me good support. I don't think I've had a single prong on a single one.
This one, it's not very adjustable. It's just got holes down it. I really like his. You can just go back and forth, and you can get even tighter, and it adjusts to you better.
This is a Pioneer belt. It's got one every half inch. Most regular SBD belts, these are not competition level. I don't think I can compete in this. I think there might be a brand of it. I know Pioneer has a competition belt, but I don't think this is the one. However, I think I've had better belts that have supported me better than this belt right here. So you need to look at it and make sure you're comfortable getting what you want. I mean, this does its job. Sometimes I go back to my double prong if I feel like it. It just depends on what's best for you and your biomechanics. Everybody's different. Also, another thing to consider is the thicker they get, when you squat down, you're going to have, see, I got a little bit of pudge right here, so it's going to come over my belt and it's going to pinch me a little bit. That's common with a lot of weightlifting belts, so if you're a beginner and you get a thick belt that's not broke in, it is going to pinch and you just got to work through it a little bit and it should soften up after use.
And then you also avoid that by properly adjusting it where you like it at. I like it to have it right on top of my hip bones. I feel like it gives me the best amount of secureness force of it.
Agreed. Okay, so today we're going to start off with conventional deadlift. Quinn, if you want to go ahead and demonstrate, I'm going to bring the camera up over here so you get a better view of the deadlift. Okay, so there's also different grips. So if you want to demonstrate the grips and as well as the foot placement.
Yeah, so we'll start with foot placement first. I think that's the most important thing is getting you a good base setup. Everyone's different. Your femur length and your tibia and fibula length will all determine your stance and whatnot. I particularly like to get just out shoulder width. You can have feet forward and feet just out just a little bit. I prefer feet just out just a little bit. So you get even. And then your hand placement. I have bicep problems. I like to get nice and close. That way I have at least around my biceps. I get nice and close. I take my thumbs, that little where it bends at the knuckle, put it on where the knurling meets the smooth part. Put it right there. And right now I'm just doing an overhand grip because my biceps been bothering me. But there's this grip right here. Then you got mixed grip, was when you pull and grip heavy ass weight pretty much. And then there is hook grip. Hook grip is when you put your thumb right here and you wrap your fingers over your thumbs. I don't do it because it's fucking hard as shit to do. That helps you get, train and keep weight, heavy ass weight in your hands. So we'll walk through a little deadlift right here. Get your stance just right. I like to have the bar about on the first quarter of my feet. That way I get in the optimal position. So I'll get the bar, put it in my hands. I take a good breath in. I'll brace. I'll take the slack out of the bar, and then I will pull it. And not like I'm jerking it. Nothing. I'm just pulling. I'm just standing straight up with it. You don't want to start right here, down here, and then try and jerk it, because once you do that, your biceps are going to whip, and that's all that trains on your biceps. You can tear shit up real bad. So, get in position. Got the bar like how you want it, and then pull it. And you want to pull. You're pushing. Not only are you pulling with your back, but you're pushing with your feet. So you want to have your feet nice and tight to the ground and really push with your feet. So it's all one movement. You cannot deadlift, lock your legs out, and then do your back. You will not pull anything and you will hurt yourself. So it has to be one fluid movement of legs and back all together fluid. Just like that.
Notice how he also goes down the same way he comes up with the weight. He keeps good bar craft that way, and it prevents himself from hitting his knees and getting injured.
Another key point is having your neck in line. You want to have a neutral neck. You don't want to be down like this. You also don't want to do that. Doing this puts so much strain on your traps and your neck. You will hurt yourself real bad. Best thing to do, I recommend playing with your form. Start off low weight. play with your width of your feet. That's the first thing I do. And then you start playing with your hand placements. I like to have it where when I get down here, you don't want to have your arms way out here. You're pulling, and it makes no fucking sense. You're not snatching, you're deadlifting.
You're increasing the range of motion the wider your grip is like that.
Yeah. So you want to have it nice and tight right here, not too tight, but right next to you. You want to just pick up with it. That's how I like to do. Would you like to go over what you like to do?
So for me personally, I started out sumo deadlifting, but now I do conventional. And I pull more conventional. So I approach the bar same way as Quinn did, but I walk up. I like keeping my toes pointed more straight than flared out. I don't like having my toes flared out as much. I like having mine straight. And I usually put the bar about midway. Everybody's biomechanics are different, so he may need to step back a little bit more than me. He may need to come back maybe more here if he's taller. That way he's not hitting his knees on the bar when he's coming up. So we'll go over that in a little bit, but for now I'm getting midway, and I use mixed grip. Mostly in powerlifting you're going to see mixed grip until you get really heavy weight, and then you're going to see overhand. Is that correct?
That's like hook grip.
Hook grip, is that what most people use when it's real heavy? Like
yeah, more of the pros use it, but if people aren't good with hook grip, they use mixed grip.
Okay. I use mixed grip mostly because I think you can have more load on you, but that load does transfer over to the bicep more. So you are more prone for injury as far as a bicep tear when you do that. So it's something to consider whether you want to train with a hook grip like Quinn stated or a mixed grip. But for now, I'm going to do a mixed grip. I bend at my knees to get down to the bar in my starting position, and then I break at my hips where my chest comes forward, and I'm pushing my butt back like I'm sitting in a chair, squatting down until I get here. I use my index finger to find the beginning of the knurling, and I wrap around. I use my pinky on this one to wrap around and get that grip secured. Then when I get here, I sink down, pulling my hips closer to the bar, my shins touching the bar, and you want to make good contact with the bar to your shins. Quinn usually looks like you beat the shit out of him by the time he's done with his shins. They're bleeding everywhere. So after this, I'm going to drive through my heels, not going too forward. If I put the weight on my toes, I'm going to be over the bar. I'm going to sink back, pull my hips in, I'm going to push through my heels. When I get to over my knees, I'm going to use a lot of my hips and squeeze my glutes and push my hips in to really lock it out. And then when I'm going back down, to avoid hitting my knees, I'm going to go in the same position I came up in. Down, just like this. And I'll release. So that's one way. I'm going to set it back up on the tripod real quick, get another view, and I want you to look at it. If you see anything wrong with my form, feel free to comment on it. Anything you think I should do to better my form from back there, what you're looking at, announce it. I mean, maybe somebody will have the same problem, same form I am, and maybe I'm doing something wrong. It needs to be announced on. So I'm going to set back up again. I'm going to go through it one more time, just like I did a second ago, just from a different angle. Midway over the bar with my feet. I'm going to break at my knees, shooting my hips back like I'm sitting in a chair. I'm going down until I get my index on that knurling and my pinky on the knurling. And now I'm going to bring my hips close as I can to the bar, my shins touching the bar. I'm going to engage my lats, pull up, pull the slack out of the bar, start driving through my heels, and I'm pulling too with my upper back and my back, but I'm driving. It's a push-pull at the same time. When I get here, I'm going to squeeze my glutes, pushing my hips closer to the bar to really finish that lockout. If you want to drop the weight, I usually throw it forward a little bit, just bounce it forward a little bit, and drop to ensure that it clears my knees and my legs. Just like that. Dropping the bar can prevent injury if you're going on higher reps, if you're feeling fatigued, or you feel like there's a little tweak. Sometimes, most of the times, I drop the bar. I don't like going down with it. It builds more muscle, but I feel like there's more risk for injury while I'm training. So that's just personally what I do. Quinn goes down and controls the weight every time, and he really has a build-up back. I think you can build your back up really good that way. It's based off preference and how you feel. Live safe.
Yeah, I recommend to go in PRs, heavy ass weight. I would drop it every time because you're trying to let it down easy. You're also fighting it. Training wise, I would recommend just controlling the weight. Don't do it if it's compromising your form to let it back down. Then just drop it. Don't worry about it. One thing that I would say, and with deadlifting and squatting too, my form will get better as I warm up. When I start, I'm always tight. This is what's going to happen. Now, of course, you need to stretch, do a little plyos, and get yourself warmed up, and you got to start doing deadlift. But still, no matter what, until I start getting my working sets, my form is not always right. And once you go from never having a belt to having a belt, it's going to change a little bit. You have to adapt. What I recommend doing, if you want to start with a belt, that's fine and dandy. But I would warm up with a belt. I would put your belt on, get on 135, and you warm up just like how you're going to lift. Same with squatting too, because I feel like it's going to change just a little bit, especially if you're not used to it.
Warming up with the belt can also help you work on engaging your abs and just really bracing your core and preparing for a heavier lift. If I warmed up without a belt and I threw a belt on when I got up heavier, it would throw off my form a little bit and I wouldn't be as used to it. So like Quinn said, it's better to warm up with the belt.
What the biggest tool that I've ever used lifting has been recording myself. I put my phone up. You ain't got to have a tripod. Just get your little dumbbell, set it up.
Water bottle, whatever.
Yeah, and record yourself deadlifting. There's some times where like I'll pull a deadlift, it feels fine, but my back's hurting, but my form feels fine. I don't know what's wrong. And I watched my video, and I'm all fucked up. So you have to record yourself, and you have to make adjustments, record yourself again, and like, hey, well, that didn't work. Oh, I like that. That looks good. That feels powerful. And you stick with that. And that's the same with deadlift and the same with squat. So yeah.
Problems that most people have especially when they're starting out, and even experienced lifters, I'm going to go through them. This is some that I've experienced myself, and then some that are just frequently asked questions about it, like, hey man, my back's a little fucked up, what's going on? Starting position too low. I had a problem with this when I swapped over from sumo to conventional. So I would really emphasize on getting down low, and what that would do, it would compromise my form where I'm here. And then when I come up, when I heavier weight, my ass would come up like this, and then I pull like this, and it compromise me.
You're using all back. You're using all back at that point.
What's going on is I'm getting too low. That's why my hips are shooting up, and my ass is coming up first like this, and I'm pulling up. Also because the weight's too damn heavy. So either drop the weight until your body's ready for the perfect form or better form. You're not gonna have perfect form with heavier weight because you're getting up to your top of the max for your body. So when you're coming up, you're gonna find out how low is too low. Record yourself. I'm gonna squat down right here. I'm gonna pull my hips in, and now I'm coming up all in one motion instead of my ass coming up first. So instead of crouching down too low, go ahead and drive, pull the slack out, and that's where you want to be. Happens a lot when you're not pulling the slack out and engaging your lats. On to the next problem. Anything you want to comment on that?
No, that's all good.
Okay. On to the next problem. Back not being straight. Happened to me and him a lot when we first started out. Horrendous form. Go look on my TikTok or my Instagram. You can find an awful video of me pulling 500 pounds on conventional. Fucking fishing line. So for example, it happens with a lot of novices. They'll come up right here. They'll immediately start pulling their back and get this cat back. They'll start pulling up, and that's how it looks all the way up. And they'll drop it. Weight's too heavy. Your form where you're standing may be too close, too far away.
And your lats aren't tight at all.
Exactly. And so you're going to squat down, and to fix that, I'm going to sink my hips in. When your hips are away from the bar, just try this at home. When your hips are pushed out, your back naturally wants to cave up. When my hips are pulled in towards the bar, it sinks my butt out and straightens my back. I then keep my chest up. Some people like to sink their chest, and that causes that cat back too. So keep your chest up, then stand up, all in one motion.
Yep.
On to the next problem. Hitting your knees, we've already gone over this. If I'm hitting my knees, happens with a lot of tall people. A lot of tall people have this problem.
And I would say if you are hitting your knees, you haven't found that perfect foot width and foot distance from the bar. So you need to get that right, because you shouldn't be running into your knees all the time. Or like you're pulling out at a bad angle.
Yep. When I'm too close, like I'm way too close right here. So I'm gonna squat down, I'm gonna pull up, I'm going over my knees. You can see the bar path is way the fuck away from my body.
Yeah.
Before it comes back.
He needs to loop around his knees.
The other thing that's important, kind of blew over it when we were going over the whole basics. Bar path needs to stay straight. You're recording yourself. You see this bar coming out here, coming back towards your body. Something's fucked. Then reevaluate. Try to best with your form. Just Google it. Look on forums. There's bodybuilding forums, Reddit forums. on the forums where people have had the same problem and put the answer out there. Just go looking for it. Last problem, well, last I got on this list. There's a lot of problems. Neck arch, which Quinn already hit on real quick.
We call it the Blake neck.
Because Blake had a little bit of a neck arch, but it usually just happens. It's easier to see with a skinny person, not like me, and someone that doesn't have long hair because it covers up my neck. But what will happen is they'll come up, the weight will be heavy as fuck, they'll look up trying to get it up, like this. And it puts a lot of strain on your traps and on your neck muscles. And Blake actually pulled a muscle while doing that during a deadlift, and that kind of put him out for a little bit. So keep a neutral head position. People recommend looking at the ground. I don't like looking at the ground. I kind of just look straight on. I look straight forward. So I look like this. So my neck is tilted, but in a perfect world, my head would be like this. A neutral, positive.
But also, as he pulls, his neck doesn't change. Blake doing it, he'd have his neck right, but he start pulling and his head, he just do like that. So like, once you stay with something, you need to stick with it. Definitely don't move your form like that too.
Especially when you're lifting heavy.
Oh yeah.
And you do this, a slight little, well, that don't feel right. I want to change my form mid-lift. That's what tweaks your back, what fucks you up pretty damn good. When you start, if you want to readjust, drop the weight. You don't have to get it up to drop it. I can be coming up right here, not feel right. Drop it.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry. Conventional deadlift.
What? You in sumo?
Sumo! Yeah! So something you shouldn't be doing if you're a powerlifter. I'm just fucking with you. But anyway, this is how you pull some heavy ass weight. You can pull it conventional or sumo. I started out sumo, so no hate against it.
We both did, actually.
You'll grow up eventually, but anyway, here's the tutorial. When you start out with sumo, it's decreased range of motion, so a lot of people get better. I think better results from it starting out, especially as a newbie.
Oh yeah.
It seems like the lighter you are and the skinnier you are and the shorter you are, I've seen a lot of crazy light short guys pull a fuck ton of weight.
Yeah, there's like 130 pound guys pulling like 700 pounds.
But usually like the 6'4" mass monsters are pulling conventional.
Oh,
so
yeah.
take into consideration biomechanics on that what you will, but that's what I've seen from experience.
Yeah. And there are some big guys pulling sumo too, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, dude, it's all over the board. It just depends on what better fits you, honestly, because there's so many variations to it.
Sumo is for sure the easier of the two because I feel like it's more intuitive. And it's more akin to a squat. For a person who squats with a wide stance, they're very much almost the same exact thing. When I was pulling sumo and squatting, I was squatting wide, and then my squat will go up. My sumo deadlift will also go up too. So they're kind of around in the same ballpark. If you're like a narrow stance squatter, then it ain't really going to affect you because you don't really have a lot of hip drive and inner leg drive that you get out of sumo, and also wide stance squat.
Also, important to note, I wrote this down so I won't fucking forget or misspeak, but sumo, it uses more quads, glutes, and hips, while conventional was using more hamstrings, more back, and then more abs. I mean, it uses a lot of core for conventional because you're having to keep your back from curving. That's bad on this, and this one is mostly just, I felt it in my hips most of the time when I was using, also I found it was really fucking hard to get off the ground compared to conventional.
Oh, it's a lot harder.
So I don't know if it's probably a lot of leverage in that, but that's also something to consider. It's going to be harder to get off the ground, but I think once you get it off the ground with sumo, it's coming up just about almost every time. Conventional, easier to get off the ground, but you got to fight for it sometimes.
Hardy.
If you're lifting heavy, you're always fucking fighting for it.
Yeah, to that point, I would say that like notoriously for everyone who sumo deadlifts, their sticking point is off the ground. I mean, there's like some girl, I forgot her name, but she does like 500 pounds sumo, and her sticking point is the floor. But once she gets it an inch off the ground, she's got it. So, and deadlift is usually about the knees. It's conventional is usually about the knees.
And a big difference is, not only how wide the stance is. Some people go all the way from, hell, and Anthony Dilworth, he went all the way wide, and he was pulling heavy ass fucking weight.
Yeah, because his biomechanics were allowed him to do that shit.
Absolutely insane. But usually, what I'm getting at is, sumo is usually really wide. Your toes are going to be more flared out, while conventional is a more narrow stance, shoulder width apart, about this ballpark. The grip on conventional is on the outside, while on sumo is on the inside. So that's also something to consider. How do you feel comfortable? Do you feel comfortable getting down to the ground getting wide and doing like this, or do you feel more comfortable standing like this and squatting down and picking it up? It's always going to be a push-pull, just like conventional. We're pushing off the ground, getting this off the ground, and then we're pulling with our upper back and our back, and then we're really going to use our glutes and our hips to lock out the lift. So, you want to demonstrate? I know you haven't done so in a little bit, but
you can bring it over here.
I'm also going to let you go over the grips as well on this. I know we went over them on conventional, but do look a little bit different when you're a little bit wider.
All right. So when I used to sumo deadlift a lot, what I would do, I would find the knurling, the little knurling ring right here and here, and I would put my shins right on top of them, and then my angle of my feet is about 45 degrees, somewhere in there. And then I get down and I grab the bar, and what I did, because it felt most comfortable, I go half knurling, half smooth, and I had the grip strength enough where I could do that. So I would do a mixed grip just like this. I'm gonna do overhand for now, but get halfway on it, and then I'm sinking my hips back. And if you'll come to my side, you'll notice how straight my back is, and it's very intuitive to keep a very straight back. And all you do, you just lock it out. There is such little movement, and it's so easy. You're just pushing, bam, right here. It's way easier for me, you know, because it's way more intuitive, I'd say. But low range of motion, excellent hip drive, and you're freaking thrusting. All you're doing really is picking it up. But there is like more of a, I call it a frog stance, where you're just outside the knurling, where the knurling begins. You're still inside, right here, wherever it feels comfortable to you, and then you're coming up with it. I wouldn't.
Now this frog stance is kind of like a hybrid between conventional and sumo, is it not?
Yeah, it really is. It's a lot harder, more range of motion than it's, you know, like a wide sumo stance. There are people who go way the shit out here, because the wider you get, the less range of motion. If you practice with it and train with it, you will pull more weight. It's just a fact. And there's guys out there who's literally way out here, and they're pulling 900 pounds. They're big dudes, but that's how they train, you know?
Yep.
And there's a guy, Jamal something, pulled like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, I've seen Jamal.
He's crazy.
That's crazy.
He's very crazy.
Okay, so similar stuff with sumo as far as my understanding of it. Now, I haven't done it in forever, so I set up about the knurling, about like Quinn does, but I flare my feet outward more. It just feels more comfortable for me. So when I squat down, my knees are kind of flared outward, and I kind of got this tension in my hips and my groin. So I squat down and I grab, and I'm really wide and really low, and I'll come up, I get to my knees, and this is where you utilize your hips and your glutes, and you really just push your hips forward to lock it out. Then when I'm done, I'll go back down the same way I came up, missing my knees. Same thing with conventional. If I want to drop this weight, if I don't feel comfortable with it, I'm going to throw forward a little bit, drop, and move out the way. The reason I didn't just drop, I moved out of the way. You got 100-pound plates right here. Be aware of what's around your surroundings. If you drop this too forward, hit one of these, it's going to come right back into your shin. So live and learn off that. So you got conventional. Let's just kind of show you the difference. So I'll come down to conventional here. Then you have sumo, which is more wide, more flared out, a little closer to the bar. Squatting down, coming up. All in one. And you can really feel the quads on sumo, I think, a lot more after doing a lot of reps than I can when I'm doing conventional work. You can get from the side too if you want.
Yeah, show me, do conventional first.
So this is conventional right here. Squatting down, breaking at the hips, sinking, pulling the slack out of it. Lats are tight, head's neutral, pushing, hips and glutes right here, locking it out. Now sumo, I'm wide, I'm closer, I feel like my feet are obviously closer to the bar, but they wind up being, actually it looks closer, but it looks, here, come here real quick. So on conventional, I keep the bar midway on my foot. On sumo, my feet are flared out.
They're almost kissing it.
But yeah, my shins look closer, but it's still in the midline of my foot. So you got to find the distance that's good for you. I flare out, I squat down. I got good mobility in my hips to be able to do this. I grab the bar, I pull it towards me, I pull the slack out of it, get it off the ground, and I'm locking it up right there.
If you can rewind this and look for yourself, but if you notice in a sumo stance, your back is already, it's flat both ways, but you're already almost standing up with it when you start. And that makes it a lot easier. And once you're all standing up with it, and you got it. It's a lot easier.
There's some people that actually, when they get in this position, depending on how tall and how big you are, when you get right here and you sink down and you pull that slack out, they've already levitated the bar before they even go. Because their biomechanics are just made for sumo. So play around with it, see which one's better for you. Is sumo cheating? We'll never fucking know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna weigh personal opinion on that, but that is something to consider whether you want to do conventional or sumo. I feel conventional is better if you're a bodybuilder, especially. I felt like my back is blown up in size from doing conventional. When I was doing sumo, I felt my quads were bigger than what they are now. So you want big quads, you want a big back. You want both, do both of them. So that's my best opinion as far as sumo goes versus conventional. Let me find my clipboard. Here, let's see. Actually, I'm gonna get you doing a sumo from back here.
Yeah, we'll start off with conventional first. You comparison about what I do. Let's get my feet stance just like how I like it. Get your hand width together. Get your grip just right. Brace yourself, take the slack out of the bar. Pick up the bar.
And notice how his chest came up before he lifted up. It perfected the flatness of his back when he lifted up his chest.
And when I'm right here, I'm kind of relaxed. I can kind of get my grip just right before I, take a good breath in. When I take a good breath, I'm getting locked in. And then I take a slack at the bar and I just pick a sucker up.
And when he takes that breath, he's tightening his core and getting it tight.
You're bracing against the belt once you have it on.
You don't want to sit down and start breathing and trying to breathe. You want to take that breath and go with it.
Yeah.
You want to hold the breath, then release your breath, and breathe.
Yeah.
If you hold it too long,
you pass out.
That's what happens to a lot of people that deadlift. They'll hold it, they don't get set up right, they waste a few seconds, then they pull, using a shit ton of energy, they pass out.
Yeah.
So you can't really spot on deadlift, but I mean, if someone's going up heavy, yeah, I've had him stand behind me a few times. So if you are prone to passing out, I wouldn't work out by myself or get up too heavy unless you got a partner to catch you.
Most definitely. And similar stance from a side angle. Shins about at the rings, feet flared out. It's gonna feel weird. I ain't done it in a while. Hands in between the legs. Same thing. Take a deep breath. Take a slack out of the bar and pull. It's a lot easier.
But as you can see, the bar path for both of his movements are the same as far as the bar path being straight up and down. There is no, if you're deadlifting no matter what, if you're coming out way out here and then bringing it back to you, if it's round in the bar, can't be doing that. It has to be straight up. So it has to be just like that, straight up. Sumo, same thing. It's straight. Bar path is straight up. If you're too close to the bar on sumo and your knees get in the way, my knees are already over the bar. So it's going to hit the bar. So I come up, they're hitting. I got to bring it over and then it comes back. So the bar path on that is
a lot of wasted movement.
And it puts you at risk for injury, because if I get it over my knees, it slips or something goes on my back, all that weight's going right on the top of my knee. So that's something to consider as well.
And that's back on the point of once you get locked in, you don't want anything to move. You want everything to stay stable, as in you don't want to move your neck, you don't want to move your back while you're lifting. If you start pulling the bar, just like this, it's set up. Say, hey, I'm nice and tight right here, but then I fold in, I lose all that stability, and I'm putting myself at risk for an injury. And that same thing, I would say, one of the important things is getting the even grip. If you don't get the even grip, this is over exaggerated, obviously. You'll say you get off balance, you get over here. Well, there you go. There are people out there who I've seen. That's exaggerated, but they have done very similar things to it. That's way prone to injury. You don't want that to happen at all.
That's why it's very crucial to make sure you're aligned. Even on your squat, you got to make sure you're aligned. A lot of newbies, This is the worst because you can't see the bar really. You're going off feel alone. And if you ain't got a mirror, you're kind of hoping you're in the middle of the bar. Yep. And I think squat's the worst where I've seen that happen the most. Yep. Where one side will be leaning and they won't even fucking feel it because it's so damn heavy on them. And they'll go down, and then if they don't have clips, this way I preach clips on squat. At least I don't preach clips on bench. You don't use clips on bench, in my opinion. You can't unload safely. If you're squatting alone, you can't get out from underneath the bar. You can't drop the weight off of you on bench. So I don't recommend clips on bench, but on squat, definitely recommend, because if you drop the weight or you got someone spotting you and that weight slides off, he can come back, cap the dude that's spotting you, fuck him up, and it could come over and even fuck you up. So it's depending on how heavy you get it. So be safe, use clips on squat, make sure you're even on it, and we'll go over that in a second. Some of the problems with sumo, I'm gonna go off the ones I have. If you have any more, go ahead and throw them out. Got anything to add on to them to help them, throw it out. Can't get down low enough. This happened to me when I first started out sumo. I had poor hip mobility. I mean, I really did. I was really tight. I was working out so much. I was playing a lot of sports, so I'd always be tight. And when I tried to get down low enough, I'd only be able to get right here, and it would hurt when I grabbed the bar. It really sank down and got my hips close to the bar, so I'd be more out here. It put more strain on my back. It really just fucked up the whole movement for me. So what I did is I asked Quinn, like, hey man, my hips are tight, what can I do to better it? And he showed me grabbing the rack. Here, make sure I'm in frame. I should be. Should be in frame. In frame?
I'll do this right here.
All right. So I'd find me a rack, and I go real wide, and I grab it just for stability, and I'd sink down as low as I could go, and I'd hold it.
You gotta pretend you're a stripper.
Amen. I get closer up, I'd sink down, bounce on it a little bit, and I'd really it loosens up my knees, it loosens up my hips. I just really love having this, and this gives me, and you can do this without that. I mean, obviously I can do it without it, but this lets me sink back and pull on something to get really lower past what I'm normally able to go. It also helps if you are tight, are prone to tears or cramps. You have something to pull and like take some of the weight off, but also get that good stretch in. So stretching, there's also other hip mobility. You want to demonstrate a hip flex that you were doing?
Oh yeah, I got you.
Our Tom Platt's leg day, I mean, he was doing the same stretches I do normally, but I'm gonna let him demonstrate them.
What I like to do is get you a nice bench set up. You can do a chair, do whatever. Just do something about this height, about halfway up your shins, almost to your knee. Take your right leg, put your ankle just like this. Brace yourself, catch yourself. Put your knee just like this, and you want to sink down with your left knee. And you'll feel it in your hip, right at your sciatic nerve. And then stretching that hip, it's getting to release. You can sit down. The closer you get and sinking down, it's going to change it. You'll feel it more in the different areas. I do right about here. I get most stress into it. Not only am I sinking on my knee, I'm also sinking with my right hip. I'm going this way with it. And that hip is just open up and it's stretching. I like to do that a lot. That's probably about my favorite hip stretcher. You can also do, I feel like this is more of like a back, but it's a little bit of hips.
Yeah.
Get on your side right here, and then just open yourself up. Take your right knee, throw it across yourself, and your right arm, throw it across yourself, and you're just opening up your body, either side. And it does stretch your hips out and also your back. Really good back stretch. But yeah, one thing, my problem I had with sumo lifting, a lot of strain on my hips. It made my sciatic nerve act up like crazy, and when my sciatic nerve would get in a bind, my whole entire back would just lock up on itself. And it'd be so painful. And I had to get people to put their elbows into my sciatic nerve to get the release pressure. And my back would never loosen up until that sciatic nerve calmed down. So that is one thing to be careful of. If I like doing them both a little bit. I don't do so much anymore, but training to be a better deadlifter, I would do both because they work different things. And they can work your sticking points too. So I would train both. That's what I would say.
All right, I recommend training both as well. Going on to the problems that he had with sumo, I personally had, like I said, hip problems. My hips were always tight. I was in pain a lot, so I needed to switch. I got stagnant. I wound up getting up to like 535, I think, before I had to make a switch. I had to do something else. I just couldn't get my deadlift to go up higher. All my other lifts were jumping up. I was stagnant for a year. Just couldn't go up. And talked to Quinn about it. He's like, yeah, have you ever tried conventional? I'm like, no. I'm like, I guess I need to. I tried it. I really felt like I have more driving power on conventional than I do on this, and that's because sumo's harder to get off the floor. And that's why I feel like I have more drive on conventional. But it gave me a lot more. Now I'm at 600 pounds on deadlift. So take that with what you will. And he's deadlifted, I mean, you pulled 600 something off the floor. He almost got that shit off, completely off the floor and up.
Yeah.
So he's almost pulled over 600. So we're experienced. I have, I don't know, 7-8 years at least, and he's about the same. So
yeah, I've been working out since sixth grade. I'm 21 years old. I'm not sure how old I was sixth grade, but
I mean, take it what you will. And if you want to learn, try. I recommend trying it out for yourself.
that's the best thing to do.
If you want to look on other YouTube videos and stuff, I recommend that as well. But the best thing to do is we self-taught ourselves, and what worked best for us is just trial and error.
Yep.
The best lesson you learn is the one you feel. So
Yep.
we're just trying to make sure it's not something that's long-lasting feeling as far as injuries.
On a side note of when you're training, one thing that really pisses me off when people deadlift is when they're going. So deadlift, one rep, I'll show you, this is what a rep looks like. Stance, bam. That's one rep, right? You ain't gotta necessarily control all the way down, it's whatever. This is not one rep, this is not 2 reps, right? Let me show you how to properly rep 2 reps. I start off by that. Bam. Cut down, get reset. That's 2 reps. Now this right here is not 2 reps. That's not 2 reps, man. You're cheating yourself, and once you're bouncing that shit off the floor, you're basically doing a rep and a half. You're starting at your knees, and if you train like that shit, you will not pull heavy weight. It's not going to happen because that first your max, you're not starting at your knees. That's not how that shit works.
On a burnout set, that's okay in my opinion if you just want to burn the fuck out.
Yeah, burnouts is a little bit different.
But if you're trying to get your 5 reps in for the day, you need to drop the weight and let the weight be dead weight before you bring it back up. Because if not, I want you guys to look, especially because these are bumper plates, and if you are on a platform similar to this, you're going to get a similar effect. I mean, it does. It bounces up a good few inches, and I mean,
3 inches.
So when I bounce, hell, I got slack. Come on, look at this.
Yeah.
It ain't shit. Now, it'd be way harder if I just picked that shit up and did it here and here.
Yeah.
Way fucking harder. All right, we appreciate you watching the tutorial videos, and we'll see you in the next one. If there is any other questions or anything else that we didn't address properly, please leave them below, and we'll get back with you with an answer we think is best for you. I urge you to look at other sources on bodybuilding forums, other forums on the internet, other YouTube videos, and experiment for yourself. But we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Deuces.
Deuces.